Hi, welcome to the Jeff and Jerry Show. My name's Jeff, I'm the Borough Manager, and Jerry.
Jerry Lucia, Mayor of Mount Pleasant.
Jerry, I just want to bring up before we start into our guest, you missed one of the, probably one of the premier things that I've done recently, is I went to the 50th anniversary, the 50th show anniversary of Challenge Accepted. And remember, I called you from there.
You called me because I was out of town and
Yeah.
I couldn't make it.
Yeah, and I mean, you had, I tell you, as I told you before, they served Little Debbie cakes to us. It was a highlight, Jerry, of the evening.
Did they have candles in them?
No, because the cakes were about this big.
Oh, wow.
So
I thought they would have had a big sheet cake.
well, you would think.
Yeah.
You would think. But I guess the challenge was to see what you thought about the little 50 Debbie cakes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But the other thing was, you know how when we did the anniversary show, the 250th anniversary of our show?
Yeah.
Remember the montage of shows and all the guests we had come and
Oh, yeah.
was part of the show?
We were
the
invited.
crowd, the big crowd. I mean, there was no room to sit anymore. It was standing room. Well, Jerry, the montage took 20 seconds of the 50 shows, and I think some of them were repeats, as I told you on the phone. I mean, it was a challenge to watch it, to be honest with you.
But, you know, I'll bet it was exciting seeing all
Well,
the old shows.
Well,
You
that's
had to
one
have-
way to describe it.
Yeah.
It was exciting, I guess.
Because 50 shows, and, you know, that's a
Wasn't
lot.
that- yeah, compared to our 400, I felt honored to be there. I will say that.
Mhm.
I thought the show was for us, by the way. Whenever I was invited, we were invited. I thought they were doing a special for us, but I realized quickly that we were not the part. We weren't the special people for the show.
Well, yeah, but Jeff, the challenge, I can't remember even what the challenge was that we did.
Well, I don't either. I can't remember the show very well either, by the way.
No, and
But you didn't miss much. But just because I know you
well,
were busy.
I'm glad you were there, and
I
and
represented.
you represented Mount Pleasant, and you know, Armstrong always does a good job.
They do,
for us.
and the production was excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellent. You know, Rick does a good job.
Mhm.
But I did sit next to Brianne, who started the show, who was the founder of the show.
And Brianne's a Mount Pleasant girl.
She's a Mount Pleasant girl. So
Yes, she is.
it was fun. It was a good evening though.
Good.
Had to go out and eat that later on.
I'm
you know,
sorry.
but
Well,
that was okay,
Jeff, your biggest goal in life is eating.
I have my new diet. That's my 8 times a day diet.
8 times a day.
I eat. I'm a grazer. I'm called a
I
grazer
think you're
now.
cheating because you go 10.
No, I'm a grazer. Well, this brings us to our guest for our show.
Yes.
Okay. And our guest today is Michelle Seacrest. Thanks for being on the show, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
And for those who aren't social media people, Michelle has a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the name of the Facebook page?
It is called What's Happening in Mount Pleasant.
Okay. And the reason why we wanted you to be on the show is because we were impressed with your Facebook page. I mean, the borough has one, the festival has one, but I think you do a really good job
Thank you.
with your Facebook page, and we want people to know more about it.
Thank
So,
you.
how'd you get started?
Well, being a mom and being involved in different activities and different ministries and that, I like to know what's going on. You know, when you have kids, it's important to know events that are going on. And we have a lot of families in our town. And so people would be asking me all the time, you know, when's this event? Is there something going on? Different holidays, you know, different times of the year. So I originally started on my page, on my personal page doing it. But then back in November of last year, I started, so we're coming up on a year here soon. And I started just putting all events in one place. And it's just grown over that year.
So, you do something that is difficult, and that's to find out all the events that are going on in town, because there's a lot of people that have, and whether they're events or happenings, you know, it all depends how you look at it, but there's a lot that goes on, especially between the churches, between the borough, between other organizations. How do you gather that information?
Well, part of the key is that I follow a lot of pages on Facebook. You know, all the churches, all the businesses.
The library.
The library, the borough page, you know, and so it's research. It's basically going in, paying attention when someone posts something so that we can repost it, making connections with people because then they send their events to me. So it's basically just connection and research.
How much time do you spend on your Facebook page a day?
It's not that, like, I'm not on for long, steady amounts of time. It's when I get a notification that somebody posted something, so I'll go on. Sometimes I'm on 5 minutes, sometimes I'm on a half hour, you know, different times throughout the day. Usually late at night is my best time.
Okay. When you say Mount Pleasant, does that cover the borough and the township, or does it cover East Huntington Township?
We try to keep it in Mount Pleasant area school district area.
Okay.
Now, if it's a Mount Pleasant address, we have a couple places like down towards Wolskin that are Mount Pleasant addresses.
Yeah.
We'll include stuff in that. You know, like Donegal, where it's the school district, we include stuff like that. Out to the fairgrounds, like around to the line and stuff. But we try to keep it like the Mount Pleasant area as far as where the school covers.
Okay. Now, you say we. Are you using the term we because you have help doing this?
I have help, yes. And that's another reason why we are able to find so many events. We have administrators on the page. Most of them are family, you know, that I can trust to keep the page running the way I want it run.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a couple contributors. Jamie Galobish from the Historical Society, she's wonderful. She keeps events. She watches the page. You know, we have to moderate the page constantly.
Yeah, she does a good job all the time.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the people that don't have a Facebook page, though, I mean, not everybody has Facebook pages.
Right.
So, but they have events. How do you gather that information, or how do you?
A lot through word of mouth. I know a lot of people from running the food pantry 4 years ago. I have a lot of contacts through that. So a lot of times they'll email, you know, or they'll see me out somewhere. And then as I'm just driving around town, if I see something that I hadn't seen, I'll stop and take a picture of it to post. You know, like if we go past the church and they have a sign out for dinner, or if you go down, like Shop and Save has flyers in their windows all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see something that I hadn't seen previously, you know, or maybe I see something in the paper or somewhere, so then I'll go back and research that to get the correct information for the page.
Well, like last week, on Saturday, they had the event at the Laurelville Mennonite Camp.
Right. We went to it.
We went to it, but I'll tell you how I knew before you called me was I saw it on their face page.
Okay.
And I says, I saw it, I looked at it, I says, boy, that is today.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how time flies and you think
Yeah.
of things.
Well, one thing about Facebook, it is notifications. There's a lot of
Yeah.
notifications because you can post
When
it
it's
in.
used the right way, it is a very good tool
It
for
is.
everybody.
It is.
Yes.
But sometimes, we talked about it earlier, some people come in with some things that they shouldn't be putting on
Yeah.
Facebook.
How do you handle that, Michelle? When you see that?
One of the things that I don't want on a page is negativity. And, you know, I've had people say, well, how can you talk about a town and not have negativity? Okay, you can voice your concerns without personal attacks. You know, that's one of the things that we don't allow on the page, you know, because
It hurts a lot
it
of
hurts
people.
people.
Well, the personal attacks are wrong.
It is wrong. You know, I've had personal attacks come to me. I'm not going to lie, they've hurt, but you move past it because the positive outweighs the negative. So how we do it is if you want to put a concern on there, you know, last night I posted one that was a reflection of something I seen. We will turn off commenting to prevent the negativity on there because we've had some nasty things posted on some of those posts.
Mhm.
But we have, you know, families, there's kids, teenagers that are on our page. I don't want them being subjected to that.
Last night, Michelle posted a walk around the park and what she'd saw with some young adults. And she approached them and talked to them in a nice way. And they sort of like just didn't like it.
Well, it was my friend that had approached them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they had snapped back at him, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, she handled it in a positive way too. She didn't go, you know, mouthing off to him and try to do that. And I think that's so important in our town. We need to understand that, you know, we're neighbors. Everybody's neighbors.
Right.
So we need to treat each other with that same respect. So in that concept, on the page, we do that. You know, we try to make sure, that's why I have so many moderators and administrators on there. Because if I'm not home and I can't see that, you know, or if I'm doing something else, they catch it.
Now, the incident that happened last night, though, that was a face-to-face incident, or was that handled through postings on Facebook?
Well, I was walking around town, because I walk every night, and I ran into a friend, and I had, right before that, heard the incident happening, and then as she was walking down, we started talking, and she had seen it. And, you know, she approached him, but then she ended up walking away because she didn't want it to escalate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, someone who has a Facebook page called What's Happening in Mount Pleasant, I always ask this question to people who we talk to and who is involved. I consider you involved in Mount Pleasant. How do you think things are going in town? Is there, and I know you don't want to talk about negativity, and we don't have to do that either, but we can talk about things that maybe you see that you'd like to see maybe change. That's not necessarily a negative thing, or things that can be improved on. So, what would you post? And I know you're not going to do a negative post. So, what would you post to improve, or give us some advice, or help us do something we're missing?
One of the things that has come up a lot are, you know, kids and teenagers in town. And a lot of people don't understand that they were once kids too, and they did things that now they're not proud of. You know, we have a lot of great kids in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And as adults, we need to be examples to them. So part of my thing is that I always think that adults need to watch what they do and say. And that's one of my complaints, is that the negativity pours down into the kids.
So you're saying most of the negativity on Facebook are through adults, not kids?
It is, yeah. I mean, people want to say, you know, point out everything that kids do. And yeah, we need to work on that, we need to correct that. But we also need, as to adults, to be example. And especially if we're in a spotlight, you know, we need to watch and we need to show respect. You know, kids don't learn respect for elders without seeing other elders do that.
Mm-hmm.
That is my main thing. You know, the kids are the future of this town.
Well, I know when you were a kid, and your mother and father, and you were taught respect.
Definitely.
And you definitely
Yeah.
were, and they're great people, great parents
Thank
you
you.
had.
Thank you.
And it shows the way you, I've seen you with your children.
Yeah.
And
my kids know. They were taught respect from a very early age.
Right.
And my kids are not angels by any means, but you know, we work through things as they come.
And you mentioned earlier, Michelle, about you'd like to get more feed into the program from the churches.
Yeah.
And what programs they have going on
Yeah.
for the youth.
You know, I think that's so important because kids need something to keep them going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there has to be support for them behind them.
Yeah.
And so part of that is the programs that our churches around here. We have a lot of amazing churches in this town.
And we have a lot of programs.
We do.
I'm on the board of the Y. The Y has lots of programs
do.
for kids. And sometimes when I hear people say, there's nothing to do, that does irritate me a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, we have so many events in town,
We do.
including parades and church festivals and fairs
Yeah.
and festivals and music, and then the churches have their stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to find a date if you start something that doesn't conflict
Yeah.
with somebody else. So that means there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And I guess Facebook helps that, because now that really is the, well, it was, I don't know if I guess it still is, because time passes me by. I'm thinking Facebook still is the source of most information.
It is.
But someone mentioned to me Instagram now.
Yeah, well, we actually did start a Twitter page and an
Twitter, yeah.
Instagram page to go with the Facebook page, and we try to post the same stuff because the younger generation uses the Instagram more
Yeah.
than Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, it's interesting how social media, it has a short window of people using it,
Yeah.
because then it becomes passé, and the youth moves on to something else, and
Yep.
then that's the thing everybody does,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Do you have some new ideas you want to come up with on the page?
Well, I recently, I don't know if you guys know, but I was added to the BDA board
Yes.
Yes.
as the community liaison. So basically, I'm the mouth of the people, I guess. But I'm going to be trying to bridge that gap between like the normal citizens and the businesses and stuff to help with that. One of the things I want to do is try to showcase the businesses in this town, because I think a lot of people don't know the great businesses we have here. They drive through town, but they don't know what the businesses are. So that's one of the things that I want to work on, is trying to showcase more of the businesses and stuff on the page.
And now that Main Street, the project is complete, you can really go into it
Yeah.
because you can welcome the people into a
Right.
good business area.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of positive feedback about Main Street. It looks really good. It's welcoming and
2 years, you probably heard some negativity in the
I
beginning,
did.
too.
I ran into the fellow that owned the Subway, and the construction did hurt their business. It did.
Yeah.
But he also has the Subway at the Walmart Plaza and the one in Norvelt. And he said that they actually picked up where this one left
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So that's why he is probably not going to reopen this one. But I just wanted to make it clear that there are two other Subways that the same company owns.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And,
And I think that's one of the things, like when the construction was going on, people were wanting to vent on the page. And so I went out, and I wanted them to understand, these guys and girls that were working out there, that's their job.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
only doing what they're being paid to do. So I went out and I wanted to bring a personality to those people, because I think we overlook that sometimes, I would be out on the street and people driving by and yelling at those
I
people,
know.
and
Yeah.
so I wanted them to understand, this is someone's dad, this is someone's spouse,
But, and we would hear the negativity. People would call us.
Yeah.
But ironically, a lot of people weren't from town.
Mhm.
We got complaints from people who drove through Mount Pleasant
Yeah.
to go to work.
Yeah.
So they lived and worked. They didn't live in town and they didn't work in town, but they were very vocal on traveling through town for the construction.
And the
Yeah.
same people are riding on a new highway that goes through town very
Yeah.
quickly now.
Yeah.
The lights are all new.
Yeah,
Everything is in their favor.
it is in their favor, but they
Because
don't call and say anything positive.
Right.
No, right.
The road wasn't put in to favor the people that lived in Ramsey
That's
Terrace
right.
or out by the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yep.
It's the main drag.
Yeah,
It's
and
the-
then that is the exact people that were complaining on the page were not the
Yeah.
town people.
They weren't the town
Yeah.
people.
They were the people that drive it every day. But I live right off of Main Street. It's so quiet now.
Another thing too, and we would give them examples of how to, and we we were not updated very well.
Yeah.
We were sometimes on constructions, because at one time you might have the water company and the gas company at one time, then you might have the water company and the construction company at one time, and so there was several crews at one time.
Right.
Sometimes it was only one crew. Sometimes, I think the gas company one time had 6 crews in town working at
Wow.
one time.
Yeah.
So sometimes we were updated, sometimes you weren't. But we would try to give people advice. If you're coming through town, go on to Smithfield Street,
Yeah.
or go on to Washington Street to bypass. And you would think that people would have automatically learned
Yeah.
after a while.
Yeah.
But boy, they still wanted to call and complain.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things we tried to do too, doing a construction, was we'd post a picture and say, okay, the crews are here today. So people getting ready to
Yeah.
come in town
Yeah.
knew to avoid that area.
Yeah. Which is the same thing that the news stations do in the morning.
Right.
They'll give you updates
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
on travel,
Yeah.
which is kind of what you were doing.
I think that the news stations have learned from her Facebook.
I'll tell you, I bet you they would. I bet you they would.
And they took the hint.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, is there anything else that, and Jerry asked you about some new ideas, but how about since you're so involved in town, what would you like to see the leaders of this borough do? Is there something that we're missing, Michelle? Is there something that you'd like to see, just based on the social media that you're involved in?
One of the things that is so important to me, and I'm a perfectionist, so I drive myself crazy with that. But when events are planned, sometimes they're last minute. And I know you can't help that sometimes, but I get a lot of complaints about that people don't know soon enough to plan. So maybe one of the things that, with events and stuff, we can try to get that information out sooner.
Sure, that's a good idea.
That's one of the main complaints I get.
Is that with the borough itself, or is that with other organizations?
That's mainly with the borough, but some other organizations too. And I know sometimes, things come up and you can't help that. But, like things that are traditional things, like the
those
Christmas
are done all
and
the
that.
time, yeah.
Yeah, so if the sooner we can get that information out, the better. Because you're going to have more people that can come because they don't plan other things.
Right. Well, that's something that you're always welcome to call up here.
I do. I've been driving your secretary.
Okay, well,
crazy.
yeah. But there's a lot of, now I can tell you, I'll give you a good example. We planned the opening of Main Street. And I don't want to call it the grand opening. I think we called it the re-grand opening or something, or reopening. And it was hard to plan that event because we had to coordinate between officials from Harrisburg,
Yeah.
whose schedule isn't that far in advance. And so we knew we were doing it a couple months away,
Yeah.
but to pick a date for sure
It's hard.
and to see who was going to be here, that was last minute because that's
Right.
when we found out
Yeah.
that if they were
Yeah.
coming, if they could do it.
Right.
So we do have some other things planned. We talked about the playground.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do it whenever it was a little bit nice weather because I want to have the
Right.
kids, and maybe we'll even do it next year.
Yeah.
The worst thing to do, and as you know, because you do go to all the events we have in town, weather plays a big factor.
Yes.
And you can do all the planning you want, and you can do all the preparation and think everything's detailed, because I'm the same
Mhm.
way. But then all of a sudden you get bad weather, and it's kind of like a
Doesn't
little
matter.
bit of a spoiler.
That was like National Night Out. It rained and everything was soaking wet, but you know what? The crowd still came out.
Yeah.
That rain stopped right at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But if you reflect back to the good weather they had the year before, we had hundreds and hundreds.
Well,
of
the
people.
good weather, it always had good weather.
Oh,
That's one
yes,
event.
yes.
I think last year was the first time
With-
they've
Yeah.
had the bad weather.
Michelle's talking about it. When that rain stopped, the people that really wanted to be there.
The
were
dig-
They
there.
all poured out,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it turned out to be a very nice
Yeah.
evening.
What do you think about people who use social media all the time and live by it? And
I like social media because I understand, I have people in my life that don't handle social settings real well. So the social media, being able to connect with people, I think is fantastic. We get a lot of information out, through that. I don't know. I like social media because I can interact with a lot of people at one time. You can't always get everybody to come out at one time. So I think it's fine, but I also think that going out to the events is our main.
Getting people involved.
Yeah, we want to get people involved. And people want to sit behind social media and voice their opinions and stuff. And one of my replies is always, go out and get involved. The other day someone was on there bad-mouthing firemen. Go put yourself in their shoes. Their job's not easy. My dad's been a fireman for 44 years. It's not easy, So instead of sitting behind your screen, come out and get involved.
Yeah, I heard, I didn't see it, but I heard about it, and there was some remarks made that, we were too slow, too long getting here and that. They don't understand. We get out of bed, get dressed, go get the truck, and then go.
what time was the fire?
6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, and that changes things.
And you also have probably 60% of your firefighters are going to work at that time in the
That's
morning.
right.
And that was my point on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
thank-
firefighters were volunteers.
Yeah,
You were raised with it for.
But,
yes.
you know, just to, again, firefighters are volunteers.
Exactly.
You know, that's not their job.
And it's a dangerous job.
Yeah, so. What do you see social media going? What's going to be the next big thing? You said Twitter and Instagram right now, but what's going to be the next thing?
Instagram is getting bigger, I believe. You know, Twitter, a lot of people have Twitter, but I don't think it's as big as it was when it first came out. The kids like Snapchat. They like, you know, all the ones that are instant and quick. They don't want the stuff that they have to.
They don't want to sit and read.
Yeah, the Snapchat, they can send a picture with some
Couple
text
words,
on
yeah.
it, and that's out to everybody. So
Yeah.
the younger generation definitely goes towards that. But
Now, are you, and you're going in that direction also?
I'm trying to keep up with the new trends. You know, that's what I want to do, because we become irrelevant if we don't. You got to
Right.
move forward, and that's in any situation. You know, the Shop MP app. We've had people complain about that. Well, I don't want to do it that way. Well, that's what it's moving towards.
Right.
Mhm.
You know.
I think we did a show about it, and I think it's a great idea.
It
And
is.
apps, there's so many people use apps now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I remember when we were talking years ago about doing an app for the festival, but we just didn't have the expertise or the knowledge
Yeah.
at that time. I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
so we couldn't do it. But you know, today, I don't know. I don't do a lot of shopping online, but I do a lot of shopping with apps.
Yeah.
Because
I do too.
apps are, again, there's an instant,
Yeah.
there's sales on them, and there's discounts on them, and
Yeah.
coupons on them. I think it's a great thing right now. And it's cheap
Yeah.
for companies to go that direction
Right.
versus running advertisements in newspapers and
Yeah.
couponing to get them printed.
And that's what I'm trying to make people understand, like the businesses and the churches and all that. You can go on my page. We allow businesses to advertise once a week on there. You know, that's free
It's a good
advertising
idea.
for you. We
Sure.
have 2,300 members right now. And, you know, in a month, we have 2,000 comments on things. So we get a lot of traffic on that page, you know, and that's the way people are going. And the apps are everything, you know.
It is. It is a big part of it now.
Mhm.
Well, we have a couple minutes left, so let's give us and our listeners and watchers the address for the Facebook page.
Okay, you would go to Facebook and you would go to What's Happening in Mount Pleasant. It's all one word. And just type that in and the page comes up and you do a member's request and we will, you know, approve you as a member. We do have a feature on there where if you want to post, you can send a post and it'll be approved as long as it's in the area. We're also on Instagram at What's Happening in Mount Pleasant, and we're on Twitter. You just type in hashtag What's Up Mount Pleasant.
What's up?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That's the only way they would let me post it on there, so they're a little fickle.
Okay. And you'll be doing this for a while yet, right?
Yeah, I have intentions to keep it going. I like doing it. I like getting information out. We have a lot of families in our area that appreciate the activities, and there's a lot of free activities in our area, in
Yeah,
our town
there
and
is.
stuff. You know, especially with Christmas coming up, there's going to be so much going on, you know. So take advantage of that. That's
Well, we want to thank you for what you do for the town. I mean, that's a positive. You know, there's lots of Facebook pages out there and lots of things, and it's a shame that a lot of them are negative. We're happy to have a positive one that just wants to do the positive stuff. So thanks again,
definitely.
and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Jerry?
Well, I really believe that what you're doing is the right thing, and it's going to
Thank
help Mount Pleasant, and everyone can benefit by it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks again. So I hope everybody learned something today, a little bit more about Mount Pleasant, and we have some good people in town who do good things. So for Michelle and Jerry, this is Jeff saying thanks for watching and listening to the Jeff and Jerry Show, and we'll see you next time.